Should we even be surprised? I don't know. You can tell me if you're surprised about this, but for me personally, I'm more indifferent. I'm more so like, hey, this is a great story, so we're going to talk about it here on the channel today, and it involves the Montreal Canadiens and a prospect that was taken in the 5th round some odd years ago. Let's talk today about Joshua Roy. Because when it comes to Roy and how he has performed as a prospect in the QMJHL, he made headlines after being selected by the Habs 150th overall in 2021, because right after, he became just an absolute stud in that league. However, it's been a few years, I feel, since the Joshua hype was at its peak, back when the guy was one of the undisputed top players in the entire CHL for point production. In that season where he dominated in his Draft +1, he was the #1 point producer in the Q, and all the Canadiens fans in that year were so annoying, and I was annoying too, because we'd be saying, hey, this guy was a 5th round guy. Look at this 5th round guy by the Montreal Canadiens, who is now the #1 player. Did I mention he's from the 5th round? That's crazy. Look at the Canadiens and the steal they got. But of course, with every 5th round pick comes a little bit of adversity. And that is essentially why Joshua dropped to that spot in the first place, because there were issues about work ethic, there were issues about defensive responsibility, there were issues about what he did when he didn't have the puck, stuff like that. He was always a top-tier, highly touted player, as evidenced by his 1st overall ranking in the 2019 QMJHL Entry Draft, but after getting selected by the Habs, that's when things seemingly clicked all together. The offensive vision, the patience, the opportunistic play, and the defensive responsibility as well. Josh Roy started to work on his game off the puck to the point that he could be relied upon in more situations than just on the offensive power play flank. Roy followed up his dominant QMJHL season by having another strong year, 99 points, 55 games played last season, and 11 points in 7 games for Team Canada at the World Juniors. A very good showcase for Roy, and he posted up 24 points in 14 games with Sherbrooke in the playoffs. However, even though Roy had himself a pretty alright preseason for most of our standards, he didn't end up making the Habs, which is okay. The guy is only 20 years old at the moment, and this is his first season eligible for being able to play in the AHL anyway, so the fact that he was able to get in and start out his season pretty nicely with 4 points in 3 games was great. Until yesterday, when Josh Roy, playing for Laval against the Rochester Americans, the Buffalo Sabres AHL affiliate, went out there and scored a hat trick and 2 assists on top of that. Roy posted up 5 points against the Americans yesterday, and it puts his total in the AHL to 9 points in 4 games. Josh Roy is over 2 points a game in the AHL as a 20-year-old, and the game yesterday against Rochester saw some brilliant plays and some even better shots. It's a natural hat trick for Roy, and all of these goals had really similar parts in common. That Josh Roy wasn't really the guy who had started these plays, quote-unquote, in the offensive zone, but rather he was the guy at the end of the play. The trigger man, the guy whom the cross-crease pass goes to on the back door to fire that one-timer in. The guy who, on the rush, is squeaking to the front of the net, receiving a brilliant pass, and deking it to the backhand to beat the goalie. And the guy who, after a turnover at the offensive blue line, is able to squeak to the front of the net and do the same thing, slipping the puck 5-hole. Josh Roy is not sprinting and he's not dying of exhaustion after he scores these goals. He's just cool, calm, collected, brushing it off the shoulder. Yeah, okay, I did that. I scored. Let's go to the next play. Because the way he reads the game is so superior than many of the other prospects that are affiliated with NHL teams right now. Roy has been so good at just putting himself at the right opportunistic place every single time. And this is a skill that allowed him to prosper in the QMJHL. One, because defenses in the QMJHL are not as good as pro leagues, I kind of get that. But at the same time, Roy was really able to use the positioning of the opposition and his own personal awareness to his advantage, and this skill has translated to the AHL in such a massive quantity that even before yesterday's 5-point game, he was already over a point a game. And that's not even to mention the assists that he had. You know how I said that Joshua wasn't really the guy to start out these plays wherein he scored the goals? Well, take a look at the goal scored by Lucas Condotta. That goal saw Joshua driving through the entire Rochester defense by himself, quickly just maneuvering the puck, making sure it was safe, and then tossing it backdoor for Condotta to put in that rebound. Beautiful playmaking, beautiful awareness, spatial awareness too from Joshua. This guy made the Rochester Americans his pets yesterday. And now, he is near the top of the entire AHL in point production as a result. In fact, let's go out there and look at that. AHL 23-24, yeah, he's number 1. First in the AHL in points is Joshua with a 2.25 points per game. Now, that number is not number 1 amongst everybody for points per game. You got Nick Robertson, who is at 5 points in 2 games. Sheldon Rempal has 5 and 2, so a few other guys have higher points per game numbers, but for Joshua, this is totally fine. I mean, looking at what he's been able to do so far, his 5 goals lead the entire AHL, and his 4 assists are tied for first with a bunch of other guys. So this is definitely a guy that I think we should all be paying attention to maybe getting the call-up sooner rather than later. He didn't make the Canadiens, not necessarily because he's bad, because Tanner Pearson is so much better than Joshua, but mostly because if you have an opportunity to let this guy marinate a little bit more, just give him the space to do his own thing in the AHL, Laval Rocket, grow with some of these other guys. He had received some nice passes from Jaden Struble in last night's game, another prospect you should be keeping your eye on. Then that's a pretty good thing. The Canadiens don't really need this guy to be amazing right away anyway, but if he is so dominant in the AHL and somebody else gets hurt in Montreal, don't be surprised if Joshua gets that call-up and he is given his opportunity to shine at the National Hockey League level. He already played well in the preseason, so I think most of us can acknowledge that there is a mind that works in the NHL, like his brain is good enough to comprehend and process, react to, and evaluate NHL situations, but for now, just being in the AHL, totally fine. We love seeing the 5-point games. Not even going to expect him to do that again this season, but if he does do that, then hey, that is awesome. Laval has been a very interesting situation to watch for AHL fans this season, but for now, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Joshua, and does this performance from yesterday surprise you? He is now undisputably the number 1 player in the AHL for points, after already posting up pretty good numbers. Just the 4 points in 3 games already is impressive enough. Add to that a quintuple showcase of points the next game. What are your thoughts on how he has been adapting to the pro game, and do you think this is going to continue into the NHL? Biggest question is, if Joshua makes the Habs in 24, 25, or whatever, how many points does he get in an 82-game season? Does he start out super hot, like he had started out in the AHL this year? Is this guy a 40-point player in the NHL by the time 2025-2026 rolls around? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about Joshua. I hope you enjoyed this video, and bye.